Okay, everyone, hello and welcome to February's ESTER webinar, where we come together to learn, connect, and inspire tea professionals across the globe. I'm Bernadine Tay, and with me are David Veal and Annabelle Kama, and I'm delighted to have you all here for this very important and timely webinar. Now, today, we're diving into a very crucial conversation, especially for tea farmers everywhere: how to future-proof your farm and thrive in a competitive global tea market. Joining me is a truly inspiring guest, Annabelle Kalmar, founder of Tea Rebellion, and she is a very passionate advocate and campaigner for the Regenerative Tea Action Project, which we at ESTER are very proud to be championing. Now, Annabelle has been at the forefront, helping tea farmers embrace sustainable practices that not only protect the land, but also open doors to new markets and opportunities worldwide. Now, in this session, we'll explore how regenerative farming can revolutionize your business, boost your competitiveness, and connect you with other like-minded community of growers dedicated all to shaping a more sustainable future for tea. So whether you're just starting your journey or already implementing changes, this webinar is packed with insights to help you take the next step. So for the next 30 minutes, grab your tea, get comfortable, and if you have any questions during the webinar, don't worry, as always, drop them in the Q&A below, and Annabelle will answer them during the later part of the segment. So please do stay till the end though, because we also might have a special guest. He's going to try and join us. His name is Michael Ham from Wild Orchard Tea Company, whose natural only tea gardens in Jeju, Korea are making waves. So he's a fantastic guy, and we hope he joins us, but you don't want to miss this. So let's get started. Hi, Annabelle. It's good to have you with us tonight. How are you feeling today?
Good. It's exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's really our pleasure, and we're so happy to be championing your cause. It's a really thought-provoking journey, especially for me, since I met you at the beginning of the Action Project. But before we continue to this fantastic presentation you have for us, just for the audience today, I would love if you could clarify the difference between regenerative tea farming and conventional organic practices, because this was one of the first things that I asked you when we spoke about the project, and I think that might be beneficial for some people in the audience today.
Yeah, sure. So for me and most people who do that, who try to define these things, is the difference between organic and regenerative organic is the additional focus on soil fertility and ecosystem resilience that farmers who farm regeneratively would adopt or in their normal agronomic practices show. So in addition to doing many of the organic practices, you'd also have a focus on, over time, building soil fertility and enhancing the ecosystem, biodiversity, nature around you over time. So those are the additional focus of regenerative practices beyond organic practices. And obviously conventional, you mentioned that too, conventional farming would be using all kinds of agrochemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides that you aren't allowed to use on an organic system. So if you go from sophistication of system, I would say it's conventional, organic, and then regenerative on top.
Fantastic. It's really very exciting, and obviously, a current topic all of us must stand up and take notice of, and I don't want to take anything away from your presentation. So for the next 30 minutes, the floor is yours. I shall come back when it's question time.
Awesome. Okay, and please all raise a lot of questions in the meantime. I think you're able to put them in during the discussion, are they, Bernadine?
That's right, the Q&A box below, and Annabelle will get to them one by one, as all the guests do. So please do, no question, too small or too big, just ask them in the Q&A. I'll see you soon.
Perfect. Bernadine, just to say, I don't see the questions because I'm presenting the screen. So if there's something that you think we should answer during the presentation, then just rein in. I think I can't actually see them, or is that just?
Don't worry, I will present the questions to you.
Okay.
And that way you just have to focus on answering them. Oh, Michael's joined us. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Super.
That's okay. We're so happy to have you with us. Um, maybe before we start, Annabelle, is it okay if Michael
Yeah,
just
sure.
gives a little presentation about himself? Just tell people who you are. I started by just telling them about um, your beautiful farm in Jeju Island and that you're just going to join us. So if you can just
Sure.
give them a quick overview, would be great.
Sure. Be glad to.
Oh, would you like to introduce yourself now?
Oh, even that. Oh, okay. I didn't know we were live. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yes, we are live.
No, I appreciate it. Nice to be with you all. I'm Michael Ham I'm based in New York. I'm the co-founder and president of the Wild Orchard Tea Company. Our farm is situated on Jeju Island. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but it's the Hawaii of South Korea. And we have a bustling 1,000 acre farm that was regenerative organic certified in May of 2022. But we actually planted the tea seeds onto the barren volcanic soil in 1999, so about 25 years ago. And the philosophy or the mindset behind it is really allowing nature to work in concert with each other to grow the teas. And so it's been a long and short 25 years, but starting about 5 years ago, we really made a concerted effort to share the teas globally. Um, and we'll be having our first tea festival on our farm in May 16th to the 25th. Actually, a lot of tea connoisseurs, tea drinkers, tea lovers are will be attending, and I think it's a great opportunity. We want to bring the tea community together to discuss and talk about why discuss the challenges of our industry, but at the same time, how do we take this beloved drink that's so healthy for you? If it's grown in the right way, it's actually nourishing the soil, regenerating the land and ecology and ecosystems, and getting people to value tea more in this way. So I really appreciate the opportunity to join in this wonderful conversation that we're going to have today.
Oh, we are very, very proud to have you on board. And I just have to say to everyone before we let Annabelle continue her presentation, this is Wild Orchard Tea,
Thank you.
early spring green tea, my favorite. It's really, really beautiful. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Okay, so take it away, Annabelle. I'll come
Okay,
back.
super. So yeah, thank you everyone, and do put your questions in as we go through. Oh, we already have one. All right. Was that a question? Anyway, I will start off, and if Bernadine wants to top them in, she'll let me know if I need to answer them at that point. Otherwise, we'll answer them when we've gone a little bit through the presentation. So the aim of this session is to give a little bit of an overview of the Regenerative Tea Action Project, what we're doing in the project, why it's exciting, why you should join, what you might get out of it, and what we're trying to achieve. That's kind of the realm altogether. I'm Annabelle, really pleased to be here. Oh, it's not scrolling. Yes, it is. So we'll just do a short overview of Regen Tea, and Michael can also pick that up afterwards in the session in terms of his perspective on it. I'll give you my perspective, and then an overview of the action project, take your questions, and also outline how you can get involved in the project. A little bit about me, I think you've already heard, probably enough, but I have a background in agriculture and I'm really passionate about change in the agricultural sector. I also worked in international development for a while and in the private sector, and then a couple of years ago founded Tea Rebellion, which is focusing on changing how the trading works and bringing more transparency to the tea sector. And out of all of this kind of experience with Tea Rebellion and working with farms directly, this is what gave rise to this project in terms of the conversations I've had over the years with the farmers that I work with. And I work with farmers in Asia as well as in Africa. And really only in 2023 did I get very passionate about regenerative tea farming and thought about what could be some principles for us, and started talking to my farmers about the farmers that I work with about this change. And yeah, more on that in a second, but that's just background in another panel. So, oops, it's got a little bit of a lag. when I move forward. The definition of regenerative tea. So I mentioned my definition, just a little bit more, soil fertility and ecosystem resilience. The World Business Council for Sustainable Development defines it as such, that moving with regenerative agriculture, we're moving to a nature-based solution that moves agriculture away from being a problem, a source of environmental degradation, to a solution, to something that helps restore ecosystem. And that's really important because of the situation that we are in as the world, basically. If you think about the water challenges that we have, or the climate emissions that we have, that we want to restore, the soil, the topsoil being at an alarming loss rate, and the loss of biodiversity. Really, the opportunity of regenerative agriculture is to move some of these concerns and worry areas into opportunities for this sector. And that's why it's really exciting. And that's why, I think it's like a great opportunity for the tea sector. And generally in tea, obviously tea is a perennial. Grows over many, many years. And compared to annual crop production, so wheat, potatoes, crops that are being farmed in Western or US societies, there is already a lot of research in regenerative farming annual systems, because some of the practices are a bigger change for these systems. So the no-till, for example, we'll get to that in a second. And for perennial farming systems, there has been a little bit less attention, less research, and less application. And that's part of why we in the project feel that there should be more focus on how to make this work for perennial systems, what are the opportunities, and also to just measure and improve as we go along. So that's outlining a little bit the challenges that we have as the world in terms of our agriculture systems and general problems, and how regenerative agriculture can address these globally and locally. And then there are some practices that are very kind of practical, that many already that are farming organically. So many of our tea farms who we are sourcing from, who have organic production systems, will already be using those. So for example, farms in Japan that we work with already use mulching. Some of them already use agroforestry. No-till is very common. I mean, only when you are kind of pruning do some farms use tilling, really, because it's such a long cycle of production. The tilling isn't really that common, and that'd be kind of an interesting one to hear from people who are farming, from the actual farmers in the call, to hear how much of a problem would it be to just say, okay, we don't till anymore at all, and if we do till, just the absolute topsoil, because that's really something that disturbs the soil and releases carbon to the atmosphere, which we want to prevent. So these are a list of common practices in regenerative agricultural farming systems. And when you see these, and I'm sure many of you who have been close to farming communities, who are either farmers yourself or agronomic practices or lived on farms, know that many of these are quite common in many farming systems. So this is to show that this isn't something that is completely different to what has been happening in farming the last 20 or 30 years. In fact, climate smart agriculture or organic farming or many other farming system, dynamic farming, have already got some of these practices. So this is just about applying them in a way that is consistent over time and monitoring the buildup of these benefits more regularly, I guess, than before, and also applying more of these practices regularly in the system. So that's pretty much, I think, what I wanted to say just generally on regenerative farming and agriculture. I'm trying to move forward. It's lagging a little bit. 1 second. There we go. And then I wanted to go into the regenerative tea farming action project. So the aim of the background to this project is that I've been starting to talk to 2 of the farms, or well, all of them really, but particularly a farm I work with in Malawi and a farm I work with in Nepal, about certifications that are currently out there in the tea sector, and about my absolute fascination and interest in becoming a regenerative certified tea brand, and really kind of putting it out there. Would it be something that you would be interested in doing? And in that context, by talking to them and many more tea farmers, I learned that the amount of paperwork and burden and cost that is mounting up with all the different compliances and certification standards is creating a big burden on the tea farming community, because it is additionality. You know, there's another one, and every single one requires an audit. And while I, as a brand, am very keen for our brand to become regenerative organic certified, I also recognize that what's really important is that it benefits the farmers. Otherwise, it is not something that is sustainable. So the project really arose out of this. How can we make this new certification that has the danger of becoming yet another just certification in terms of the costs and compliance process behind it, but really be about the mission and the big picture? And the mission and the big picture is around helping farmers to accelerate the adoption of this practice and get commercial benefits from doing so, not just another certification, right? And we don't want to just work with the really, really big farms. We want to work with smallholders, cooperatives, and family-owned farms. So that's the overall objective of this project. And this is a little bit blurry, but I hope you can kind of generally see that what we are outlining here is an iterative journey that is about helping to baseline what is currently happening in a farming system, helping to adopt new practices that farmers might not have tried yet, learning from that adoption in terms of which ones are really right for that region, that country, that type of soil, that kind of whole ecosystem, and measuring that, and then scaling the ones that work. And hopefully at some point at that between that third and fourth point, really know what works and scaling those that work, get a positive return on investment, positive ROI from this project. And also at that point, if desirable, become certified by the Regenerative Organics certification ROC, which Michael will briefly mention at the end. So that is why we've outlined it as a journey, that it's not just about that certification, it's about getting on that journey and doing what's right for the ecosystem, and definitely gaining rewards from that process, whether it's in yields or commercially over time. Trying to go forward again. I'm sorry, that picture is a little bit blurry, but it's a picture, it's copied in from somewhere else. All right. The project itself, oh God, the project itself, you can see here, is outlined as a 3-year project. In 2023, here on the top, you see what's been happening with Tea Rebellion, and on the bottom, you see what's happening globally. So, for example, in 2019, we signed the Paris Agreement. In 2022, the Montreal Biodiversity Agreement was signed. So those are the two big international drivers, as it were, in my understanding of these things, that help get momentum behind sequestering carbon in soils, as well as in building ecosystem resilience and preserving biodiversity through farms. So if those are the two international anchors, and ROC actually precedes this, it started in 2017, but the whole effort of this Regenerative Tea Action Project helps to do in agriculture what these big international agreements want to do for the planet, basically. In 2024, we started thinking about what are some of these organic principles and published them with some people with input from some of you, which was great. And then we decided around November to kick off this project. And we did it in parallel with COP29. We had about 30 participants in 2 different kickoff calls in different time zones. And the plan is to run the project over about 3 years. In 2025, we'll be focusing more on baselining and adopting practices, running some deep dives. We will get more into those in a minute, and getting fundraising. In 2026, we hope to measure and get feedback from those practices and to scale those that work. And by 2027, we hope that those farms who want to manage to get certified. And we also hope that there will be voluntary carbon biodiversity credits obtained through this project. So those are very tangible goals that we have. Bernardine, are there any questions by now?
Not yet, Annabelle.
Okay,
I think everyone's still waiting to listen to more of what you have to say.
Yes, I'm coming through. I have, unfortunately, I got a very slow click on my browser for some reason. So the effort that what we've done so far is to have in this year, come on, one further. We've had one milestone planning session together with a lot of different people across the value chain. And we've applied for, it's not moving further. We've applied for, there you go. We've applied for funding. It was actually a different slide. I thought it was coming afterwards, but it doesn't matter. We've applied for funding and we're planning these deep dive sessions. So for more on that in a second, but this slide actually outlines what here. How do you balance the kudos that you might get from your label being regenerative to the actual difference you're making? Great question. Can I park that one till we get a bit further along? But I like the question. Thank you so much. The impact that we're after is to have more transparency in the tea industry and support the small farms and co-ops in this transition, make the certification, facilitate the certification for farms that are remote, for whom the relative cost of getting certified is much, much higher. Increase soil fertility and moisture retention, which are the agronomic benefits. Reduce some of the operational costs, because you are aware the more agrochemicals and fertilizer you use on your farming system, the more actually that costs. So that's also part of the driver here, especially when, with the war in Ukraine, fertilizers went up. Suddenly, a lot of farms looked at their agrochemical costs. The increasing the resilience to climate change already impacting a lot of farming communities, some of the ones we source from, and that is a real problem because it's heating up the crop and the soil, and so we want to basically protect the agronomic and the returns from that change in the system and enhance biodiversity on the farm. So if those are some of the big benefits that the big impact that we're after from this change, this project is trying to get us there. Now, it is we had this planning session where we looked at what are some of the tangible milestones that we want to create. And it was a really interesting discussion because some of the people in the session were very interested in getting certified. Others, on the other hand, were very interested in actually doing the right thing on their farms. So while that group, the producers here, on the left, you might have thought, okay, it's a heterogeneous group. No, it's not at all. People have very different perspective on whether they want to get certified and what they want to get out of the project. And actually, it's very rich, having lots of different experiences in the group. So in that project planning session, we had people representing all these different groups. And it's great to have people from tea organizations such as ESTA present, also very independent tea experts who have a great experience. And I know that some are here in the call as well. We did have a couple of people here from the third party sector, basically certifiers, but we're looking to get more. And of course, all the ones that are here on the bottom in green, which represent the value chain. I will talk a little bit more about who we're still trying to recruit into it, because we are looking to get more representation. Another question on Regenerative. Mick, we will get to this in a second. Yeah, whether the term Regenerative is a bandwagon that everyone is trying to get onto. And there is also, which we haven't got in this presentation, but I want to just mention it at this stage, there is a big debate happening in the agricultural or sustainability community about whether you can be regenerative if you're still conventional as a farming system, or whether you're only regenerative if you're already organic. So basically, is being organic certified a prerequisite for calling yourself regenerative? And people have different definitions of this. And might be a good one to pick up when we get to the chat with Michael at the end, because I think this is a really worthwhile one. And it's important to not get stuck on that definitional issue that might delay action, I think. That's what I've concluded with this debate. But I do think it's important to make people aware that this debate is happening. So the aim is we want to get everyone in the value chain involved, and we want to have good representation across all these groups. And it's really particularly important, I think, to have a wider range of buyers represented. So far, we have quite a lot of tea brands in the project, but not so many bigger buyers yet. Someone like Waitrose, or someone like Ocado, or someone like Whole Foods. Which would be great. We also, I think, it would be good to have more importers who are, importers who are buying bigger volumes across the value chain also presented. I guess trying to make it flip. There you go. So I've outlined what's in it for certain groups here, because I'm hoping that some of you guys are in the call and this might resonate. So we want to get more buyers, bigger buyers, potentially, but also bigger diversity of buyers, and more certified data experts into the project. The reason that we want them in there is because they add such an additional perspective to it, and it's so rich for farmers and for smaller brands and pretty much the tea community and the international organizations as well, to be able to exchange and better understand what the perspective is of those two groups. It really enriches the perspective of the farmer to be able to hear, for example, from buyers, that there is a commitment to launching regenerative tea brands, what they're looking for if you wanted to apply, to understand what, on the other side, to understand what the constraints are by farmers to adopt some of these certifications, and really kind of build that understanding with one another. For buyers, it's great because they can really have meaningful carbon and biodiversity benefits in their supply chain and really work on insetting in a meaningful, impactful way. And they can also tell a really great story. And it really signals long-term commitment that isn't transactional to join a project like this. And I think for certifiers and data experts, it creates a great understanding of a slightly different farming profile to the ones that might already be in their portfolio. It allows them to test their new apps or data offering on sustainability, on a regenerative with a different community. It broadens the client base. And yeah, it also accelerates the adoption with these new groups. So these are some of the benefits that we are thinking about for the groups where we still want to get wider representation. And part of our little advisory group that we formed is the aim is to make sure that we reach out to more of them and recruit them into the project. And of course, I've also listed here the benefits to farmers that we hope they get through this project. And it'd be really great to hear from farmers in the group whether this resonates with you in terms of diversification of income, getting ROC certified, regenerative organic certified, if that's desirable, but certainly de-risking the transition to this type of farming system, connecting with buyers and certifiers, learning, connecting with other farmers, understanding what is right for your farming system versus, the whole array out there. So these are really kind of practical things that we want to bring across. Oops. Okay, well, I don't know what happened here. This slide has moved. Sorry. Okay, so on this slide, somehow it's lost its the structure, I'm afraid. What's in this box, or would have been there if it has properly shown, are the two deep dive sessions that we have scheduled. One is for March 8, and it's going to focus on biodiversity and nutrient density. And we're looking at exploring what can be done and what the current knowledge is. And there will be various people from across the project that will help us deliver this. And then the other session, I don't know what's happened to the font here. Sorry, guys. And the other session is on certification, which Michael will lead, and he will just talk to us a little bit about what we're going to do in that session. But the aim overall is to bring across what is the standards out there, what alternative exists to regenerative certification, what some of the debate is, and what you need to know. The process, the cost, the timeline, the kind of the basics, but also the intellectual part in terms of debates, unknowns, myths, and drawbacks and challenges, etc. The other thing that you can't see here is we've submitted a bid for AI for regenerative agriculture. And the idea of that was to get access to a tool or an app or a platform that will help accelerate basically the speed and the scale by which farmers get access to relevant data that will help them make decisions about what to do on this topic. We haven't heard back yet, but it was also on the slide. So for completeness, I'm also sharing that. All right. Well, I think that was what we had to share on the Regenerative Tea Action Project. We want to go into questions and challenges. Bernardine?
Yeah, Annabelle, we have a lot of questions here, very good questions indeed. Michael, if you want to come on the call, come back so people can perhaps ask you the questions as well. Before I go to the questions on the floor, can I just ask you, Annabelle, practically speaking, are there any challenges and what are they for farmers to implement if they're thinking, right, okay, I want to start becoming a regenerative farmer and use some techniques. What are some of the challenges that they might face? Maybe it's for you and Michael, this question.
So there are different levels. So I think from an agronomic challenges, so that's to do with the actual farming challenges. If you do something like plant shade trees or intercropping, you will lose some yield, right? Because it takes space in your field versus, but basically you'd have to replace a tree with some of your plants. So you will immediately have some, I think, a yield decline. So in any kind of transition, I think you have to anticipate a short-term yield decline. So that is a challenge. That might recuperate then as you're using that to offset other things and if etc. But in the short term, yes. Then there's the whole part about getting certified and having a baseline, which gets very tricky. So I think, and Micah can also talk about that. But basically, I think if you want to implement these practices in order to at some point get a carbon and biodiversity payment, you have to think about what is your baseline, because they will ask about, okay, what's additional, what was there before and what's additional? Which part am I paying for with all these credits? And in order for that, you need a measurement at the beginning. And that's where I think it gets a bit tricky. If you just want to use the right farming system because you think it's right for my system and I want to do the right thing, then I think you can start today. You just have to know what that does to your yield and your soil, etc. But the everything around the credit or the certification might require some additional things in terms of measurement that are a bit more complicated. That would be my short answer. Michael, do you want to write in?
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm looking at the chat and the Q&A. Mick mentioned, oh, regen ag seems to be like, people seem to be jumping on the bandwagon. And it is true, especially in the last year or so. There's a lot of talk on regen ag. But kind of echoing what Annabelle said, if you as a farmer look at the market, of course, you want to follow the market so that economically you can be sustainable. But what I can say about regen is if you only look at that aspect, it's going to be an uphill battle all the way throughout because regen is so, you have to give up on a lot of your common thinking, the way that tea is grown. And you have to kind of have the discipline to let nature step in. And that's a tough line to toe a lot of the times. So the advice that I can give is let's think about how our practices are affecting the land, the biodiversity, which is deteriorating throughout the world and causing a lot of issues, both for human health and environmental health. Even the climate disasters that are wiping out tea farms, like in Africa, all over, there's a reason why the farms aren't as resilient today as they were in the past. And so if regenerative agriculture, to me, it's a simple way of saying, let nature dominate the growing of our teas, right? Let that be the centerpiece. Because if we do that, everything will be more resilient. There'll be more life in the soil and above the soil. And someone asked also in the chat, oh, organic, the taste of the teas seems to suffer a little. I can tell you, because we focus on the soil, we've won 26 international medals at the top tea competitions. So I don't think it's about organic. It's really about if you focus on the health of the soil microbiome, the soil will pay us all back by producing a higher quality tea. So, I mean, there's a lot in that question that we're discussing now, but I just wanted to come across or bring across similar to what Annabelle said. If we care about the soil, how it impacts our farmers, our final product, what's going into people's bodies, and showing an example of how we can nourish and heal the land and have it flourish, then I think getting that certification is just a byproduct of that mentality.
Yeah.
100%. And, as someone who has sipped, a range of your teas, Michael, I definitely can stand by the fact that, well, it truly is excellent. So, but do you think the land that you grow your tea on, how beautiful it is, and you talk about the air quality and the winds even affecting the taste of your teas. Do you think that it has helped that you are in that location and other people might struggle?
Jeju Island, there's pros and cons because there's three main tea growing regions in Korea, and it's a deep history, 3,000 years, because tea from China came to Korea and then to Japan, but most people don't know about Korean teas because we produce so little. So the traditional tea growing regions are mountainous, and they have the mist coming in from the sea and four seasons. And so very, very ideal conditions. Jeju Island is relatively flat, even though it's a volcanic island. But I do believe because it's surrounded by the waters, the sea, uh, the our teas, I think, do get seasoned by the salt coming in from the sea. But I really think there's a magic to the volcanic soil. Um, so there are some things because it's flat, it's not ideal in some ways, but I do believe the soil has some special qualities in it that give the tea a special, unique taste.
On the point of like, does it affect, does the soil, that the regenerative practices, organic practices affect the soil? I mean, yes, I think everything affects the flavor, the taste of tea, right? So it's such a joint product, but depleting the topsoil, depleting the soil can't be a sustainable long-term strategy. Like for none of us it is. I think it's there's this saying about, well, the human race can thank its existence to 10 centimeters of topsoil and the fact that it rains, right? Someone amazing has said that. But if you think about it, if the topsoil goes and if we lose and you don't build it up over time, then at some point, well, your tea isn't going to be able to grow, right? So I think there is that perspective of, in the short term, yes, it might affect flavor, and you'd have to think about what your holistic flavor can be, with everything being as pristine as possible in the system. Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, just before I go to the other questions in the Q&A, which are really, really interesting as well, I just wanted to add, Annabelle, that we are looking, isn't it, for people to join this project. And there's a lot to do. So I understand already in the chat, some people like Mick are interested in joining the project. So please do. I think, Annabelle, you might have a QR code for people to scan and come join the project.
Yes, you know what, let's do that now before we forget. Can I just
put it on so that anyone who wants to come on board, it is very exciting, and you will be the pioneers of such an important project. So, we'd love to have you on board. But let me get to the other
Can I just, Bernadine, before we forget about the QR code, can I just say these 4 things that we'd like you to, the 4 things we'd like you to do. So support good tea companies, join the Gen Action Project, invite other tea people who aren't maybe in this webinar, but you think would really make a difference there, and share and write about it. And the QR code is, God, why does it keep getting stuck? On the next slide, it would be.
Yeah. Yes, in order for this project to work, everyone needs to be involved, to get things moving. So yes, okay, so I have a question from Anissa. I
Mhm.
think this might be to you, Annabelle. How did you get interested in tea?
How did I get interested in tea? Well, I've been a loose leaf heavy tea drinker, I would say, all my life. Got it from my father. We drink a lot of black tea. In fact, I don't know if any of you know the company called Bunting Tea. It's an old Frisian black tea company that somewhere very, very remote in my father's family was founded. And we never had any real connection with that business. But that's what we were drinking. And so when it was on the table, it was like, yeah, that somehow is in our extended family, blah, blah, blah. And I got to tea because I decided I wanted to launch a business that connects farmers with consumers. And I wasn't settled on tea at that time. I had worked a lot with farmers in developing countries. For example, I did my thesis, my master's thesis in international agricultural development with banana farmers in the West Indies. So I interviewed a lot of banana farmers. And at the time, it was about trade globalization, how that would be affecting smallholder female-run farms. And one of the insights I had from that was, wow, these farmers are amazing. These women are like solid. They had 4 kids. They were running the households. They managed to certify their bananas fair trade, whatever. But by the time that banana reached the UK grocery shelf, no one knew any about it. And that was so sad, right? It was just a banana, right? And so I always wanted to do something with that idea. And I settled on tea because it felt like it was most unappreciated, which is a sad thing to say in Esther. But really, the tea was always blended, always flavored, you know, and at the time I was living in the UK, drunk with milk and sugar, and the poor tea really didn't have any appreciation of the grower whatsoever by the time it reached that cup. So that's why I settled on tea.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this is a question from Dr. Sergio Ilgaz. Thank you for your informative presentation. I sincerely hope that your project will be successful and make a significant contribution to future tea farming. I believe that regenerative tea farming practices are vital to sustainable tea farming. Depends on the location or country. Could you please summarize the most important challenges during the project? And I think you covered some of it, but are there any more that you have to?
Yeah. So at the moment, I think there's a slide for it, but for the risk of getting stuck again, I'll just do it off my memory. The challenges we have right now is we want to make sure we have the full value chain, and we don't have enough buyers, bigger buyers, and we don't have enough good data experts that can really be a backbone to this project in terms of creating that pull from the market and ensuring the farmers that this project is de-risked in terms of them getting on board and doing those things, as well as helping us to reduce the cost and the speed by which we can do the right measurement for these farmers. So I think, and that's what we need the data provider for. So those two are, that's a big objective, that we get more of those kind of organizations involved. Another challenge is funding. Right now, we applied for this one AI specific fund, but we're looking for more. There's one that just come around the corner. And if you are aware of funding opportunity for regenerative, particularly tea or anything in the regenerative farming space, please shoot him our way. Because we do think we need funds in order to help farmers pilot and measure and make this easier. So, and then the other thing is the project team. So right now I've got 2 people supporting me who are volunteers, and I'm doing this as a volunteer, and everyone's involved as volunteer. So basically it's a volunteer project, but that's fine. You know, like we will make it work. But it's, you know, it is a question of bandwidth at some point when we get really deep into the midst of that data, proxy measurement, interpreting it, etc. Yeah.
What do you think would make the biggest impact to achieving this mission?
I think if we can get, interestingly, I'm now on this getting good, simple proxies for what farmers are doing. I think would make a great, imagine this scenario that you no longer need to put the burden of proof on the farmer for what they're doing, but the burden of proof on the certifier. So for example, 300 organic cooperative members, they don't have to be all audited. One has to be audited. and the rest can be supplied by comparing the AI data for that region with what they see on one farm. Something like that, I think, would make a huge difference. So basically cutting down the costs and the burden on certification would make a huge change in terms of the adoption and the impact of this for the sector, I believe.
I think this is a great time to go to Jose's question. Thank you, Annabelle. So, sorry, Michael, did you say something? Oh, sorry. So Jose asked, as you mentioned, many certifications end up being more of a burden than a real benefit for tea farmers and their workers. How could regenerative farming not only help restore the environment, but also create a positive impact on the people involved, such as workers and consumers, so they can recognize it, be enlightened about its benefits, and be motivated to drive it forward even more? I think that's a great question.
Is this a brand awareness, like a project awareness question? How can we?
How could regenerative farming not only help restore the environment, but also create a positive impact on the people involved?
Well, to be honest, I think it goes the other way around. If it doesn't have a positive impact on the people involved, it will not have a positive impact on the planet. Like if it's not enriching me and Michael and Bernie and all the other 35 people on this project and their communities and cultures of doing things, then I don't think, I don't know if I got this the wrong stick, but I think that's how things work for me.
Yeah.
The certification that we got, it's Annabelle mentioned it, it's called ROC, so Regenerative Organic Certification. There are 3 pillars. The first one is healthy soil, making sure that the soil is thriving through the regenerative principles and practices. The second one is animal welfare, making sure wild animals or pollinators, they're all respected, so they're part of the whole ecosystem. And the third part is farm worker fairness. So it's actually a staple to treat the farmers, provide a living wage, give them a reason to have pride in their work. The auditor that came to our farm interviewed every single farmer. And the one question, obviously, besides the technical stuff that I was surprised he asked every farmer, "Are you happy working here?" So
That's a great
yeah, it was the toughest audit that our farm ever had. Our farm was the first to get USDA organic in 2007. It's always been a pioneer with organic, but by far the regenerative certification was the most stringent. So I take confidence in that we got the certification. And the other thing is I can tell everybody is what's really resonating now, I don't know globally because I'm in the US market focused here, is direct trade. Direct trade meaning directly from the farm, skipping out all the middlemen so that actually the farm is taken care of. So what I'm seeing, not just in tea, but all the other regenerative categories like chocolate, coffee, like rice, I see more of a focus on the farm itself, the work of the farmers. And when you put a spotlight more on the farm instead of the product or the brand, that's when I think things will continue to flourish. The farmers, there'll be a pathway for the next generation to take up the work of their parents. And I think that's the main benefit we can give our whole tea industry, because it's sad to hear like so many tea farms are shutting down because their next generation is just not interested.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's a great answer. In fact, actually, we have some tea farmers, 4th generation, I believe, here that have some questions. So let me get through them because we might overrun, guys. So I hope you stay because there's some really interesting topics here. So first of all, from Nigel Milligan, great talk, Annabelle. I sympathize with your regen aims, but have problems with its implementation on a large scale. Global tea production annually is about 6.7 million tons, and every ton of that made tea removes 45 kilos of nitrogen from the soil, mainly replaced using chemical fertilizer. Replacing this organically requires an enormous 30 million tons of biomass compost. We just do not have the additional land to grow that amount. So what can we do? It's a tough question, always from you, Nigel, but very good one.
Thank you, Nigel. It's good to get tough questions. So this is a little bit the So, some of the farms that we work with are also big, and well, big by a tea rebellion scale. And the perspective of going for the entire plantation, whatever 1,000 hectares it is, changing them all over to organic or even regenerative is so daunting. So what they do, they've decided to take a certain part of their land and convert it to organic, bit by bit, because it's also you need to de-risk the transition. You need to see what's happening with your soil and your ecosystem as you do the change. What is the dip in yield? How quickly can you offset it? And also, when you have an international crisis hit and the cost of fertilizer goes, like we've seen a few years ago, that also de-risks your financials and your operating costs. It's actually not good business to have your whole production in one farming system. Right? You of course have this issue about if you're too close to go conventional, the certifiers won't quite like that. There are some fringe problems about having various farming systems on one farm, but I would say we do need more land to convert, because we cannot. I mean, the carbon emissions from the from all that artificial fertilizer is a big issue. And then on the other hand, it's also really interesting to look at how much carbon is sequestered by tea plants. These are plants that grow for 30 years. There is actually quite a lot of carbon contained in the soil. I know you said we remove 45 kilos, so that's quite a lot. But we also retain some, more so than maybe many other crops, especially annual crops. So I would be very interested in looking at the statistics in more detail. But I think just because the task is so huge, as all these big tasks, doesn't mean we can't tackle it. And each farmer should, think about what is this fraction of their land that they want to start moving over now, I think.
So Nigel, very good question. And I could actually say you can save money by going regen. When we had our audit in 2022, that we actually had to get a soil health lab test done. And volcanic organic matter from volcanic soil is typically in the 14% range. And our organic matter was at about 18, 19%, which is very high. And we don't buy any fertilizer, because what we do is we take any of the weeds, cut vegetation, and we grind it and put it back into the soil. Regenerative means no till as well, so it retains a lot of the nitrogen. We did another test, and it shows that for every kilogram of tea produced on our farm, we're sequestering 380 kilograms of carbon. So it's extremely carbon positive, climate positive, carbon negative. And we don't have to spend money on fertilizers. So there's definitely great examples like this. And that's one of the reasons why we want to invite people to our festival in May. We want to show people what we've been doing and see if that can apply to other farms around the world.
No, that's fantastic. And it's always good to have these forums where people want to share what they're doing, like yourselves, so that it can inspire everyone to jump on a really good cause. And I think there's a beautiful question here. I hope that answers your question, Nigel. But I have a beautiful question here from Kim Wong, who's based in Argentina. And she has two questions, so I'm just going to bundle them together. But she says, I work closely with a tea family who are agroecological. How could I support them better as a tea shop owner? That's a really nice question to ask. And also, the second question she has, is there a big difference in price to the customer, and how accessible is it to the market? So, Aija, if you'd like to answer, how can you support them better? How can she support them as a tea owner?
I'll take the one on I start with the second one. I think how to support them better is I would say, ask them what would help them. Like, what about what you're currently doing is helpful, and what would be, what could you do in additional, or what is even creating a barrier? So I find that I get quite interesting pointers for my farms when I ask them this question, or I send them a feedback survey, because certain things that you just do as a buyer might be, they're easy things to fix. And from a farming perspective, it might be supporting, creating that link to this project, for example, and connecting them with other farmers in Argentina who are in a similar farming system. So, for example, so that they can figure out what cover crops would work for their farm. But a lot of these things are somewhat local. So this is a global project, and we'll always get these questions about what intercropping to use, what crops, etc. It's quite local, right? What you would use in Malawi isn't probably what you would use in Nepal. So therefore, connecting with other farmers in your farming system, it has an additional benefit. So while Kim could be helping them to connect to this project, you could also maybe find additional farmers in Argentina that would be a good source of inspiration and networking. And on the price difference, I think it is rewarding. It's definitely in that. What I hear from Michael. Michael, you have to answer this. In the UK, not so much because people don't know what ROC is yet. It depends how advanced your market is with regard to this new certification, this new dimension of agricultural production, I would say.
Michael, you want to?
Kim, I really like that you're so supportive of your local tea farms. We need more people like that because it takes, like they say, a village to grow a child or grow a farm and allow it to be sustainable for doing the right thing. So that's very commendable. I would say the same thing. Talk to them, ask what their challenges are, but also introduce them to projects like the Regen project. And in terms of pricing, of course, if you're growing a more artisan specialty tea in healthier soil, of course it's going to be more expensive. And so there's that saying, price is an issue in the absence of value. So for us, it's really about what value are you getting for that price increase. So just to give you a on the ground perspective, like we're in Whole Foods, which is the top organic retailer here in the US. And we have teas that are ranging in the $3, $4. That's the low price point. And ours is 15 and it's the very high. The next one down is probably 13, 12. So we are more, but when we actually do store demos and give people a taste, explain why it's that price and why it tastes so good, people, once they understand the value, it's not an issue. Then what happens there is, so right now, our biggest thing is getting people to understand how much work goes into it, the value of it, and what it means to their health, what it means to our planetary health. And then once people understand that, I think they vote with their dollars. And then it goes back to direct trade. Then the farm benefits from it. I see Nigel's Q&A here. There's very slim margins, but when you cut out all the middlemen and it's direct trade and the farmers are being more respected and valued for the work that they're doing, I think those margins can increase and it can create a sustainable framework.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think articulating the value is really, really important. As real value, that is. Okay, so I have a question. This is from Anisha. We are fourth generation family run group of tea plantations in Assam, and there is a small portion we have converted to organic, and I would love to get in touch to learn more. She says, fantastic. Anissa, you know where to find Annabelle to join. I have someone from the floor who wants to remain anonymous for this question for you, Annabelle. How much tea does Rebellion Tea trade in a year, just to put it into context to the 6 billion kilos?
Less than that. Next question.
Okay, I hope that gives you an idea. Okay, so Anissa asked one last question. Our biggest concern in Assam is dealing with pests. How would regen farming deal with this? Ooh, good question.
I think two ways. I think we don't spray, but I do hear there are some organic options that you can look into. But for us, nature system takes care of the pest itself. Like maybe not 100%, but for the most part, there's a hierarchy of how these pests operate, and then before they can damage the teas, other insects, other animals take care of the ones. So we're fortunate in that we don't have to spray because of a pest problem. But talking to a lot of farmers, even organic farmers, sometimes there are these pests that come during certain parts of the year, and it just wreaks havoc, right? So I would say looking into more environmentally friendly, not so damaging to human health as well. There should be some organic options as well.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Before I read out Kim Wong's message, can I just ask one last question? Is it difficult? Is it currently difficult for tea companies who want to put regen teas in their range? Difficult to find?
To find
it
regenerative grown teas?
Yes.
There are some, and you can see that certain. So you can go to Rock. Let me put the link in here, and just I'll put a link in here to Regenerative Organic Alliance, and they have a database for all the ingredients that are currently grown regeneratively within the standard and have been certified. So if you yeah, so basically you can look there if you're interested in chamomile to see where it might come from, etc.
Yeah.
It's often at the ingredients level, and it's quite often at, and there's very few brands to the extent like Wild Orchard that have been actually as a brand certified, but I think it's starting. I think Tazo has achieved certification for a certain type of tea, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct, Michael?
Yeah, so right now there's a certified, regenerative certified tea farm in India. I think in Assam, they do black tea and they do chamomile. There's one coming on board from Sri Lanka, one from Tunisia, and I expect more and more to Tanzania is interested in Nepal, Taiwan. I speak to farmers that are very interested. So I think over the next few years, we're going to keep seeing farms getting certified.
Yeah, you have the same challenge as you have with organic. So you need to make sure the farm is certified organic, and then you then as a brand, you can claim that, right? So it's parallel to the organic process if someone's already familiar with that.
Fantastic. And you put this in the link for guys
Yes.
in the room to have a look. Well, whilst you do that, I just wanted to read out the message from King Wong. She says, I organize workshops for tea professionals and invite tea producers so that they can share their experience and spread the word. Argentina still is a small domestic market, but the interest has been growing year on year. As a tea shop owner, I have chosen to help the farmer by giving more back to them. I think that's a fantastic message, and we hope many, many more people are like you, Kim Wong. So you're a great champion for doing that. But I see it's now time to close the webinar. I really wanted to say thank you everyone for all your questions. And I wanted to, of course, say thank you, Annabelle and Michael, for that inspiring presentation. We at Esther are 100% behind you, and we are so proud to be part of this project. And if you are an Esther producer and are watching this video, because it is going to go on the website for everyone to watch after this webinar, we hope you will be motivated to join us as well. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop us or Annabelle or Michael a note, and we'll get back to you. But I wanted to say that, oh, hello, David. That we're changing the format, by the way, for 2025, this webinar format, and we're bringing the tea community an exciting lineup of speakers who are experts in their field, starting with our next featured guest, Mackenzie Bailey, who is a celebrated digital specialist to many well-known tea companies, and she will be helping other tea retailers on how to approach digital marketing. And that's the next one on the 26th of March. So, as you know, in today's competitive tea market, having great products just isn't enough. You need to be strong. Need to have a strong digital presence to attract your customers and grow your brand. And whether you run an online tea shop, a physical store, a specialty tea brand, this webinar will equip you with the tools and strategies to market your tea more effectively in the digital space. So I think, tea retailers should join, specialty tea brands wanting to build awareness, cafe and tea shop owners eager to attract more customers, entrepreneurs who want to start a tea business online as well. You'll learn many, many things which we will detail in a newsletter to you so you can join. Now, there will be actionable takeaways as well. So it's going to be very valuable. But this is where the format changes, because these webinars that we were running will only be a member-only webinar, and ticketed if you are a non-member. So it's free for members, but £35 for non-members. So it's really, really a good idea to, if you're interested in learning throughout the year, join our membership, because we have an extremely interesting lineup, and you can go to our website, specialtyteaeurope.com, to find out more about the membership packages that we have. But for now, I wanted to say thank you so, so much to the speakers for sharing this, to you, Annabelle, for starting this wonderful project that we're 100% behind. And yeah, we look forward to bringing this to life together with you. David, do you have anything you want to say before I close the webinar, or any of our guests?
No, I've been here all through, listening to it all. You know, as we've said before, Annabelle, this is a great project. It's a great initiative. You've got the full support of all of us at ESTA. Yeah, we wish you luck, and we'll be with you every step of the way.
Good. Like to hear that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, for now, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you at the next webinar. So, Michael and Annabelle,
Thank you.
have fun.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody. Next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Bye.